Alright, okay, we return for part 2. Something I forgot to mention, just a little note. Yes, I am with my Buffy knowledge. Essentially, after season 5 of the show, WB cancelled it. I think it was, I can't remember why, but WB cancelled the show and then UPN picked it up for the last 2 seasons. So 6 and 7 were on UPN, and I think UPN gave the show a bit more money. It had a bit of a bigger budget. Anyways, part 2 we're going to get into the comics and that stuff. So first thing I'm going to show isn't Buffy exactly, but Buffy related. I thought I would show it and maybe talk a little bit about it. I'm not completely up on it, but it is Fray. This is set like hundreds of years in the future, way after season 7, and I really recommend, if you've watched all of Buffy, you need to check this out and you will recognise Fray's weapon that she has. It's a really excellent story, really well told. I do think it's a little rushed in places, and the ending could have been a bit better, but in fact it was kind of epic though. But it's really cool. Scotty Boy, you need to check this out. DVD and you too if you haven't already, because if you like season 8 you are going to love this. It is fucking amazing. Some of the artwork and just the set, no, not set designs, but the scenery and stuff is so cool. I mean, look at, it's just so good. I think Tom Gabeer's into this. I'm not sure. I swear I'm remembering mentioning it one time, but I'm not completely sure. It's just, I mean, look at that, for Christ's sake, that's fucking awesome. So yeah, that's Fray. Just really, really cool. Check it out. Now we'll get into all the season 8 comics I have. I'll just show them off first. I've got up to issue 18 and I'll explain why that is in a moment. Essentially we've got issue 1 variant cover. I don't have the graphic novel ones where they're like 5 issues per thing. Issue 2 normal cover. Issue 3 normal cover also. Issue 4 again normal cover. Issue 5, one of 3 variants I think. This is my favourite variant and I managed to find this good price. It's not a particularly good issue I don't think. Yeah. Issue 6, my favourite sort of mini arc from season 8 I guess. Yeah, that's normal cover again. Issue 7, how awesome is that? That looks exactly like Giles. Issue 7, yeah, normal cover. Issue 8, normal cover, that is sweet. Issue 9, normal cover, that looks pretty fucking sweet too. Issue 10, normal cover, that looks awesome, doesn't it? That's just so cool. Issue 11, normal cover. Issue 12, variant, I can't remember, I think that is variant cover. Issue 13, nah, don't really like that cover. Issue 14, I think those are both normal covers as well. Issue 15, issue 16, that looks fucking sweet. Issue 17, I think that's a variant cover, but I'm not positive. And issue 18, the last issue I bought. Now essentially, despite Buffy being my favourite show, I thought the season 8 comics was somewhat of a letdown. Yeah, it does follow on directly from the TV show, like a year or 2 after. Some of the direction they took I just didn't like, and the artwork, the original artwork, I just thought it was kind of bland. I just thought, meh. I don't know, it's just me. I didn't like it, and they brought back a certain character which they killed off. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but I just thought, why are you doing that? That just takes away from the whole power. You know, when you watch that scene, then that season, a character gets killed off. You're like, oh my god. When you watch this, when you watch it now, you're like, oh, it comes back in the comics. Who cares? And they just bring so many characters back. And it's annoying, really, to be honest. I have to admit, I did really like this the Face mini arc, this one. But again, it just felt kind of rushed. The whole mini arcs. The mini arc thing annoyed me as well. I wanted them to do one big story, which they kind of seem to have done a little bit. Like there seems to be a big bad who we don't know who he is, or at least I don't, up to what I've read. But there's just all these mini stories in it. It's just annoying. I'm like, no, I want one big story, you know. And it just became too fantasy. It's like, obviously they were like, oh, with the comics we can do whatever we want now. Yeah. And I'm like, we've got to stick to the show. And I know it's written by Joss Whedon and a lot of writers from the show, but it was just pissed me off, some of the stuff they did. Although, and the Fray arc, which I didn't get the last issue of, was disappointing. I had not read Fray at that point, but I was like, oh, I can't wait to read something with Fray in it. But it was just like, oh. And they changed the artwork for the Fray thing. I don't know if you can notice, but I thought it looked a bit shit, really. Especially when you compare it to some of the other stuff I've read. Well, that sounded a bit pretentious, didn't it? The front cover artwork, though, is great. I think is it Joe Chen? Oh, I can't remember, but especially that just looks fucking gorgeous. Obviously she can't do the interior artwork because it would take fucking ages, but I mean, I don't know if it gets better. There was one thing that made me want to get back into it, which is kind of silly, but where Dawn mentions she broke Buffy's Veronica Mars DVDs, and I was like, oh, geekgasm. And apparently one of the later issues that happened, that's mentioned, but for me it didn't feel like the show because it was too fantasy and it was too like, what are you doing, giant rock people? And like it was just like everything seemed a little rushed, and the first story arc I wasn't too big on, but I did like some of the stuff where they took it, like I won't spoil it, but with the start, I can't even say in case you haven't seen the last season, but and the dialogue was pitch perfect. I think they really got that spot on. It was just exactly like the show, and I could hear the characters in my head. But for me, it's just like, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna reread Fray, and then but I want to maybe dig out issue 19 and then start getting the graphic novels. I want to continue reading it, I do, but I'm not totally fussed. It's not top priority, because I'm like, oh, it just doesn't, it's kind of like, it's an interesting idea, but for me it's not part of the show. You know, the show ends with season 7 and that's that. This is just like a curiosity, even though it's written by Joss Whedon, but I'm just like, I can't take this as canon. Well, I sound like a major geek right now, but it's true. I'm sorry, but but this, I'm not sure if I consider this canon, but almost. But it's just so good that I can't. How can I not? Really, because it's just awesome. I also have here. Sorry, that was a major rant. I'll try and fit this in the end of part 2. Buffy Top Trumps. I don't know if you can get these in the US, but I don't know. Top Trumps are like, if you haven't, you know, like you have characters and they have like, you know, for Buffy ones it's like combat in daytime, combat in nighttime, fight factor, killer rating, intelligence, and then it's like whoever has the most wins or something. I can't remember. I haven't played Top Trumps in ages. These ones only go up to season 4, but I don't think there's a Giles card, which is really annoying because they have a... Where's Giles? There's no Giles. Yeah, I'm looking here. There's a Kendra, for fuck's sake. Professor Walsh. Malloc. He was in one episode. Ah. It wasn't even a particularly good episode as well. I, Robot You Chain. I, Robot You Mediocre, more like. It's a play on words. It's Balthazar. That was the guy from Blade, actually. There's this guy who was in one episode in season 3, really didn't do much, although had an amazing death scene. No Giles! And obviously none of the characters that were introduced in seasons 5 to 6, because it only goes up to season 4. So that's my Buffy Top Trumps. We'll end part 2 there, and for part 3, the final part, I'll see you on the next one. Okay, peace.